Alright, today we're going to be talking about the art of hoof trimming. Georgia here has already had about a hoof and a half done, so I'm going to show you an example of what a hoof looks like and how we're going to be using the hoof boss on her. Hoof trimming should take place about every 4 to 8 weeks, depending on if the animal is lactating, producing milk, or gestating, or pregnant. As Georgia is neither lactating nor gestating, her hooves are a little bit shorter and they're growing slower this time of year, while in the winter months or while she is producing milk, they tend to grow pretty quickly. So her feet are just a little bit hard, so we're going to be using the hoof boss. But first, I'm going to show you some tools. For the purposes of cleaning hooves, which horse people should recognize, this is a hoof pick as well as a brush on the side. It is not food, as she is trying to point out. We'll use this in case there's anything stuck in between. Normally that happens during the winter months when the mud just gets really hard. We also have handheld hoof trimmers, which is what I normally use on Georgia, as well as a handheld filer. But this tends to work really well on younger kids or animals that have pretty soft feet. For instances like today, we are going to be using the hoof boss. This is a mechanical, kind of like sawing tool, and this one right here has a purple blade that is used for really fine-tuned sanding, which is what I'm going to be using, as well as the one that my mother normally uses, which is kind of like a coarser sander. Works really well on those hard hooves. When push comes to shove, we can also open up the bigger saw blade. This is good on animals with really hard hooves or who have really thick ones that are hard to cut through. We don't like to use this one as frequently with newer animals because it just takes a little bit of getting used to the sound of the hoof boss, same as if you were trying to shave an animal. It takes a little bit of desensitization. But that being said, always make sure you are using personal protective equipment when operating these kinds of tools. So we're always going to make sure we are using eyewear as well as thick leather gloves. Make sure they're really thick because gloves like these, which are the ones I typically use, they will cut right through. And these ones are the Costco ones. They work great for everything else on the farm. It's just these thick ones are perfect for the hoof boss and they don't get cut through as easily. If we are trimming hooves and we notice that there is some kind of hoof rot, which we will not see this time of year, but it's kind of like this fungus that grows. I think it's a good way of describing it. We have different treatments, so hoof and heel, copper tox, which is the one that we primarily use, and hoof flex. That will just pour right onto the hoof if we notice this, as well as treating with LA200 in severe cases. However, I did promise a demonstration, so let's get into showing how this works. So I'm putting on my personal protective equipment, and I am plugging in my hoof boss with an extension cord because I'm in a different spot than I normally do it. But we're going to push this flip right here, like so. I'm going to grab her hoof. So now, as you'll notice there, she wasn't as keen on the hoof boss today, which is totally fine. The back feet tend to be a little more sensitive in those animals. You want to make sure that when you are holding a back hoof, you want to be extending it straight out from the body, making sure that you're not pulling too far towards the outside or the inside, making sure those hips stay in alignment. Because goats are a lot less resilient than humans in terms of keeping their joints in place. She is really good when it comes to the front feet though, as are most goats. So you can just hold them up. Those shoulder joints are pretty flexible, pretty easy to use. And you can also tell that didn't upset her too much because she has been chewing her cud, which is another sign that the animal is relaxed. Now in terms of how it looks when the trimming is complete, this is her right front hoof that I did earlier. You'll notice that it's nice and smooth. You can see the white underneath rather than the hardness of the hoof that I could show in a moment. But we want that nice smooth edge And when you put it down, you see this angle right here. It's keeping the rest of her leg in alignment, making sure there's not too much pressure on the inside or the outside. It's just that nice, clean line that'll keep her supported in the joints. Now, on a hoof that isn't trimmed, which this is the only hoof back here that I haven't touched, she's a little long right now, but you'll notice that there's some brown. We want to get underneath that to get to the white part that I just showed you. But that is an introduction to hoof trimming, and if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below.